New Gallup poll showing a majority of Americans would prefer a more hands-off approach when it comes to the government. According to that poll, 52% of people said the government is doing too many things. The poll indicating half of all Americans prefer lower taxes and fewer government services. Take a look, the graph right there on your screen. It shows survey responses dating back to the 90s. And as you can see, this year, a significant number of people polled want the government to do less, while last year, a record number, 54% of U.S. adults said the government should do more to solve problems. So a bit of a flip-flop in a short time frame there. Dr. Mark Clausen, history and law professor from Cedarville University in Ohio, joining us tonight to give us some context to this data. So Dr. Clausen, let's get right to it. In just 1 year, a majority of Americans changed their mind. What do you think the tipping point was?
Well, they reported in the survey itself that they thought it was probably related to COVID, and I think they're probably right. But you have to be careful about these kinds of studies. When you drill down a little deeper, you find out that just like after 9/11, the specific issue had to do with our national defense and how we defend this country from terrorism. I think this is another example of this, that the respondents to the poll were focused on the COVID issue specifically. So what looks like a radical change was really a radical change because of one specific issue, the handling of the COVID issue, which is also related to the presidents, the different presidents, Trump and Biden.
So you've got the pandemic, president change, a lot of factors in play here. Let's focus on people in the middle, though. The pendulum of American opinion typically swings back and forth when it comes to independence. From that same poll, this was really interesting. In 2020, more than half of independents, 56%, said they wanted more government involvement to solve problems. That number's just 38% right now. Do you think this is an indication that people may vote differently in the upcoming election?
Well, in 2022, I think it's a very good indication that they might. We don't know 2024 yet. If it changed this fast in a year, it could change back rather fast. Independents are kind of an unknown quantity. They change fast because they respond to specific issues. They might like more government in general sometimes, but when it comes to a different kind of issue like COVID, they might think, well, Trump didn't do it well. We think Biden will. Biden gets elected. He's not doing it well. We shift suddenly. That's typical because they're very issue-focused. They're not specifically tied to parties, Democrat, Republican, so they will change in a short time.
Well, Dr. Clausen, earlier you mentioned 9/11, and during that time, according to Gallup, most Americans trusted and wanted more government involvement. We saw that same trend again in the pandemic. Is there any way to predict how Americans will feel this time next year?
Is there any way to predict? Well, I think if the COVID situation comes under control and we begin to see the relief of regulations and the restrictions and so forth, I think you may see a shift back toward what would be normal. Now, the question still is, what's normal?
Right.
We do see at the same time an increase in government activity in general, which could really drive more people to oppose government as well in the future.
How accurate are these polls? I mean, is this a good gauge of where we are as a country right now?
I think that question was a little too vague, at least. It needs to be more detailed to get at what exactly was driving this. I think if they did that, they could give us a better picture of what could happen in the future.
Yeah. Good conversation. Dr. Clausen, thanks for coming on the show tonight.
Thank you.